The more Victoria cried, the more the density of the pain increased. She started shaking as a result of so much tears. Victoria stood up slowly, picked up her bag and started going towards her house. It was already late, so she managed herself and went into her house. The next day Victoria had gotten herself prepared for school. She has always been an early bird. Victoria dressed neatly as usual and went to school. She could see fellow students pointing at her. Some laughed while some shook their head in disbelief when they heard she was pregnant. Victoria was surprised how the news had spread like wildfire all over the school. Within few hours Mrs. Fockham found out. When class started, her classmates turned around and gossiped with her name. Victoria saw Amaka walking into the class. Amaka had been in the principal's office ever since she came to school. They were trying to confirm if truly Victoria was pregnant. Victoria rushed towards Amaka to hug her, at least to reduce some pains. Amaka turned her back on her and walked away. Her mother, Mrs. Fockham, had warned her sternly to stay away from Victoria. It was Mrs. Fockham that told the school authorities that Victoria, their best student, was pregnant. Victoria tried her best to hold the tears in by folding her lips. But the pain was so much she couldn't hold the tears back. Even her best friend had turned her back on her too. As the tears flowed down the cheeks of Victoria, she ran back to her seat and placed her head on the desk crying. Some students pitied her while others made fun of her. "Our Virgin Mary is pregnant," a student said, and others bursted out laughing. "Don't you know pretenders do the worst?" another student said. Another carried a water flask and raised it up in the front of the class and shouted, "Best in prostitution goes to Vicky, Vicky," some guys screamed. Victoria felt as if the ground should open and swallow her. She wanted to escape from the class, but don't know how to. Suddenly the class became calm and everyone was seated. Victoria raised her head and saw the principal inside her class. "Victoria Linus," he called out. Victoria stood up, slowly wiping off her tears. "Carry your bag and follow me to my office," he said, and walked away. At the principal's office. "News getting to us suggests that you are pregnant. Is that true?" he asked, looking at Victoria. She nodded her head slowly in acceptance. "Can you tell me who is responsible?" the principal asked. "It's Corporal Mitchell," Victoria said, and a tear dropped down her cheeks. "No wonder he left earlier than expected, telling me he had an emergency. You should have told me the instant he made advances towards you. Now see the mess you've gotten yourself into." "I shouldn't be doing, but I will. These are some of his files," the principal said, handing them over to Victoria with a letter of expulsion. "I'm sorry, Victoria, but you're expelled from this school and can't continue schooling in any reputable school in Umuakpa. Parents have it that you'll be a bad egg to their children." Victoria broke down in tears as she collected the file and letter from the principal and walked out of his office into school. No mother ever wanted her child to associate with Victoria. Women would raise the tip of their lips up and shake their head at her when she walked along the road, while some men keep calling her to have a taste of her too. Victoria hasn't eaten since the morning, but hunger was far from her. She was filled with her own tears. Victoria kept on thinking of a way forward. A thought came into her head: she needs to leave the village. But where will she go to? But it was better for her to die off in an unknown land than to die of depression in the village. That same night, Victoria carried some of her things and left the village in the dark when one will see her. She didn't know where she was going. Where she will find herself, she wasn't sure. She just wanted to leave the village. As she walked, she began to feel dizzy and fell down.